All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another In Conversation. Today, I am so excited to be talking to my friend who I feel like I've known forever, but we really have just started getting to know each other in the last few months, I would say.
Yeah,
Dr. Tamice
yeah.
Spencer Helms, a
Hey.
theologian, an activist on the board for TNE. So I'm so excited to be chatting with you today. I was trying to think of all the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and then the list started getting too long. So, so what I
Okay.
am going to start with is I want to talk to you about this because I know that you have seen, and I even posted a video about this the other day, about there being this conversation about white culture being erased in America,
Mhm,
right? And typically, when
mhm.
people talk about white culture, they tend to do a comparison with Black culture.
Right.
And I know that a lot of this ideology started in the white evangelical church. So, you
Mhm.
being the theologian and the activist that you are, I would love for you to kind of break down a little bit of that history for the listeners and the people that are tuning in today, because I think
Yeah.
people don't understand where the root of that white replacement theory really came from and how it became so pervasive in the country right now.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of just getting to this place of recognize this uncomfortable truth of how embedded sort of American Christianity and white supremacy are. And the unfortunate reality is that in America, they became one thing. That's why right now what we experience when you poke on white supremacy, Christianity hollers, and when you poke on Christianity, white supremacy hollers.
Mm,
Because in America, because of the doctrine of discovery, because of all the ways that we thought about making whiteness attached to capital and capital being attached to chattel slavery, that all of this is kind of wound up in one thing that I like to use the phrase of anti-blackness because I
mhm,
think it's more really it helps for people to think about what is the reason we created this. James Baldwin talks about this a lot. He asks this question a lot. You have to figure out why you needed a Negro in the first place,
hmm,
because that's not what I am. I'm a man. And so, what we have to do, if you watch this congressional hearing, the reason he can't answer the question is because white identity is simply I'm not black.
hmm,
And
hmm,
not being black was American currency. And so you have to think about, okay, so then what does blackness represent? It represents void. It represents existential fear, represents the unknown. It represents things I don't quite capture. It's why they're so mad about the Super Bowl. When you feel like you don't have control, it makes you fearful. And you have a choice when you face fear. You
yeah,
can trust in the goodness around you, or you can be preemptive. And what white supremacy did, it was preemptive. So it
hmm,
made a bad choice, and then it codified that choice, and then it justified that choice, and then it voted for that choice.
ooh,
And
yeah,
so we are right now witnessing the full telos of white supremacy. This is
yeah,
what it looks like. And what it does is it dehumanizes you and it makes it so that you can't even look in the mirror.
mm,
So a lot of my work is talking to people about the ways that most people are coming alive to realities that they are like these are things that they are just waking up to. And so imagine that. Imagine how embedded that is in your body and in
right,
your psyche and in the way that you think about reality and in the way that you think about God and sin and self and truth. So
mm,
we have a lot of work to do, but we first have to get to the point of realizing that I am good. I
yeah,
am not bad. It is
yeah,
the fear of darkness, the fear of that which I can't control, the thing that is just beyond my ability to grasp it. We don't have to be afraid of that.
mhm,
But when you do operate in fear of that, or when you make that thing perfect and pure, then contamination becomes the thing that you avoid, which
mm,
is why they do their own Super Bowls,
right,
right? It's why they
right,
live in their own neighborhoods. That's
right,
why they freaked out about kids coming into their schools
yeah,
because they feel as though contamination is threatening their stability and their
mm,
safety. But
yeah,
you have to, there's no way out of this. I mean, you're going to have
yeah.
to let it go.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
no
I
way
mean,
out
yeah,
of it.
there is no way out of it. And it's interesting because I feel like with a lot of other cultures and a lot of other ethnic groups and demographics, there has been this push forcing us to assimilate, but
Right,
there's not a requirement for them to assimilate to the change in what the societal structure is becoming. I don't
right.
remember what the study was, but I'm sure you probably know a little bit about it, but like the 2020 2045 um
Yes.
study about how the scope of America will look, and
Right.
that the white demographic will most likely be a
Right.
minority because of, there's a higher uptick in interracial
Mhm.
marriages. People are immigrating here more so. But what is so interesting to me just about the
Yeah.
fear in talking
Mhm.
about assimilation is there's I don't know, I just can't get into the psyche of understanding why they can't embrace it rather than why choose to fear it. Because
Mhm.
as a Black woman, I feel like our culture is amazing, and we've always been a very welcoming people, right?
Yeah.
And I always think back to what happened with Dylan Roof when he shot
Mhm.
and killed those 9, church worshipers, but they welcomed
Mhm.
him into their house because
Mhm.
that is what we have always done, not even just as people of faith, but as our culture. And
Mhm.
I'm just trying to understand, at least maybe in your studies and maybe what you figured out, why fear is what takes over and not like an embrace.
Mm. I don't know, why fear takes place. I think it's primal and it's natural. The
Mhm.
problem is that what happens with institutions that are clinging to whiteness is they never allow for variance. They
Mm,
never allow for enough expansiveness to give, I'm working with some colleagues on a paper right now because whiteness is really it's unseen, and I use this acronym of seen because whiteness has affected and infected our somatic life,
mm,
our epistemological reality, our existential fear,
yeah,
and our neurobiology. This thing
yeah,
is embedded
it's
and it
deep.
needs to be uprooted in those places. That's
Mhm.
why yelling at each other is not going to fix it.
Sure,
It's
sure.
about fight or flight.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Like this is about a primal need to survive that has been scapegoated onto a black body because it was fearful, because
Mm,
it was other. And that's why in my work, I'm like, y'all, we cannot only deal with it out there. We have to deal with our own impulse to scapegoat our fear onto other people, even
sure.
those in the progressive streets, because it's about a fear of contamination that I think we have to really deal with. And there's some really great writers on this, Billy and Paul Horde, who I know you know. Billy's on the
Mm,
board, that talk about you contamination and this idea of like, y'all, purity. We should, and the thing about black people is when you're forced with your back against the wall, and when the society you live in is telling you that you're a beast,
hmm.
but you sing so beautifully, and they're telling you an animal, but you make love and life and
Mm,
beautiful children, you know that the reality is a lie. So
sure,
you just live in spite of it. Would you
sure.
expect me to buy into you telling me that the sky was purple? It's not purple.
Right,
So
right.
what's wrong with whiteness is that it's unfounded on anything. That's why it had to be
Yeah.
encoded in law.
Oof,
And the fear
oof.
is what's going to happen when the bottom of my identity drops out.
Mm,
It's a social political ego death that we still are not willing to do.
we're not willing, yeah,
Whiteness is born out of a fear of the other, and it institutionalizes fear,
yeah,
and it institutionalizes shame. That's
yeah.
why in these congressional meetings, all they're doing is mudslinging.
Hmm.
Who's going to look worse in the public eye? That's the
Who's gonna
goal,
get the
to
sound
make you
bite?
look
Who's
bad.
gonna yeah, yeah,
Who
absolutely,
am
it's
I gonna make look bad today? And then you
right.
find that in the algorithms, you find that in progressivism. I'm like, y'all, we gotta do better than all of this. All of this is trapped in the logics of whiteness, which is
Yeah.
that I can't be who I am unless it's in spite of who you are. That is
Mm,
not how it works.
no,
No
not at
indigenous
all.
community functions like that.
Yeah,
That's a colonial way of being that
yeah,
has gotten encoded even into Christianity. Meaning like, even Christianity, the ways that I experienced it in this country, it's like it's very unwilling to embrace expansiveness. For
yeah,
what?
yeah,
If
yeah,
it's true, it can stand. If it's true, you don't got to worry about it. It
right.
doesn't take violence. It doesn't take, fear of contamination. It doesn't take all of that. I believe that Jesus's being is powerful enough
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
to face anything. We don't
you're right.
have to cage it and capture it and code it to keep ourselves safe.
Mhm,
God is
mm,
wild, and we have to find safety in wilderness. That
yes.
is what the people of God have always done.
Amen. And it's interesting as you're speaking, the only thing that keeps running in my mind is how unsustainable that
It
ideology
really
is.
is. look at
Like,
it.
look at it, exactly, like,
Look
it's gonna
at it.
destruct at some point. It's just not sustainable, listen, this here's the thing, I know a lot of people, and we've talked about this before, we're having a lot of people kind of see the light recently because,
Right, yeah.
by and large, it's indefensible at this point, a lot of the things that are happening in
Mhm.
this country, and you can't use Jesus's name to defend it anymore. Like, if you wanna defend it because you wanna be racist or you wanna be a bigot, whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
that's fine, but keep Jesus's name out of your mouth, right?
Mhm.
But for you, because I've talked about this and I know that it's a struggle for some people,
Mhm.
how do you help people have a compassionate on-ramp to the
Yeah.
other side? Because we don't
Mm.
want to shame people that are
Mm.
waking up and realizing, but we also can't let them get away with the fact that harm has been caused and that they
Mhm.
have been indoctrinated by this ideology and this theology that was
Yeah.
made to harm people that you
Yeah.
claimed to love, which is the
Yeah.
complete opposite of anything that Jesus stood for. So I'm trying to find what the wording is, the language is for those compassionate on ramps. But I just want
Mhm.
to talk about that a little bit because I know
Mhm.
people watching now probably have family members, probably have friends that they've lost. They may be waking up. Those family members might be scared to come back into the
Yes.
conversation, which I understand.
Yeah.
And as you said
Yeah.
about progressives, like, we're just doing this back and forth. We have to do
Mhm.
the solution. And
Yeah.
I'm always going to say, as Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we got to go high because
Mhm.
going low isn't sustainable. It's
That's
just
right.
not sustainable. Anyway, so I just
Mhm.
want to talk about some compassionate on ramps from your
Mm.
perspectives.
Yeah, like, at first, I mean, I think it is just acknowledging, right? Like, I this is why I'm saying, like, even as a post-Christian, like, Jesus is a G and a cheat code right now, because
Right.
Jesus said, "You have to deal with the plank in your own eye first,
Hmm.
before you can deal with the speck in your brother's eye," and the reason for that is when you start to get in touch with your own triflingness, when you have to die to your own ego in a case or give something up or surrender something or
Hmm.
let something go or not respond and not retaliate, when you get called to that stuff, it's hard to do. And
Yeah.
when you've done it enough, you just know that shit is hard to do. And so you can at least offer that amount of grace. Like,
Yeah.
it is hard to realize that what I was doing and being and believing was a lie.
Mm.
That is hard for anybody to
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And so I want the same level of mercy and grace extended to me when I don't know what I don't know. I mean, I think
Amen.
about this right now. My chosen family is deaf and hard of hearing, right?
Mm.
And I came into that situation queer and black thinking, man, I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. Not really. Not
Yeah.
really. I walked into
Yeah.
that space with some privilege. The thing is
Mm.
that we are all going to be like complicit in something by
Sure.
nature of just being human. And so
Sure.
the point is not to be perfect and pure. The point is to be merciful and generous. Now
Just
that
where the
does not
do unto others comes in.
that's right. I mean, he's
Yeah.
saying, like, he's not saying don't point it out. He's saying deal with it first, cuz then the
Mm.
way that you deal with it in your brother, you'll do it differently once you've had to go
Yeah.
that road. He keeps asking them, the disciples, all the time, "Can you drink my cup?" Like, "Can you drink the cup that I drink?"
Yeah.
What he's
Yeah.
saying is like, y'all keep talking about it. No, be about it. And once you have to be about it, it makes you way more patient with people. It makes
Mm.
you way more patient with process because you know the depths of your own capability. Like people can be judgmental when they're not honest with themselves, you
Mm.
know. And
Yeah.
so I think that's
Yeah.
part of it. The on ramps is like, yo, like none of us is pure and perfect out here.
Right.
So there's
Right.
that. The
Right.
other thing is like knowing like what on ramps to get onto. So there are a lot of white people who are doing that beginner's work. And the reason that I call it beginner's work is because when people start to kind of have conversations in those spaces, it can be harmful to people of color who are like, yo, like, I'm gonna need y'all to work that out somewhere else, right? But there are people doing that work. But there is a route, I think, to having generous conversation and generative conversation across difference that subverts the idea of race. But we
Mm.
do have to talk about the ramifications and the problems that race have created first. And then
Sure.
we got to talk about all the goodies you got because you didn't have to think about it, right? And then we have to talk about, why some of y'all still won't let these things go. I mean, the
Yeah.
same clinging to power is happening in all kinds of white institutions right now.
Absolutely.
Like whiteness
Absolutely.
itself will not let go. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how are they expecting to lead us through this when they're just finding out what it is and they
Mm.
still won't let it
Mm.
go.
Mm.
They
Mm.
still won't let it go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
until we get there, like y'all, like, we have to, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground, it
Yeah.
abides alone.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that the interesting thing also is that when you point out to people that equality doesn't mean taking something away from them, it
no,
shocks them. Like they really think that in order for everybody to have a seat at the table, that
yeah,
that means their chair gets taken away, and that's
right,
not at all what it means.
right,
But that is what they've been taught, and that
mhm,
is what they how they have always operated. They
right.
don't know what it's like to include everyone without having to push other people out.
That's
That's just
right.
what it is. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why he couldn't answer the question.
Yes,
When Senator
yes.
Kane, when all these people are asking you the question, okay, so what do you mean?
By white identity.
What are we protecting, right? What is white identity? Do you know what he had to do? He had to name the black church
Mhm, mhm.
because white identity is predicated on not being black.
Yes, yeah.
And so blackness is now about a position to the state, right? And so what we have to understand is, y'all, you're gonna have to be uncivilized. You're gonna have to be okay. If a criminal administration calls me apostate, that is a stamp of approval.
Hmm,
If wicked logics have no space for you, that's good news. So it's like we keep trying to be validated by a system that's corrupt. No, we need to let it go and build the new thing. And the
yeah.
new thing is going to come from, how would I want to be treated?
Yes.
Like, how much time off would I like? And think about the least and lowest person you can think of, and think of the highest thing you would do for them, and start to implement that in every
Yeah,
sector of society. But for right now, I think people really have to just be comfortable with, like, being uncomfortable for a minute. And that means, like, taking the L on the fact that you could have known and didn't, and then finding routes, I mean, I know you and I both talk about people that we can point people to,
yeah.
um, but I would do these things in communities, and I would not deal with anybody who's not having you grieve and
Mm,
not having you work through shame in your body, okay?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
underneath whiteness is you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Whiteness is not real.
Right,
It's made up.
right. Yeah, absolutely. It was made up for power. That's exactly what it was made up, and that's what I also tried to
Exactly.
explain is because even so for those of you that don't know what we're talking about in terms of the Senate confirmation hearing, it was Trump's appointee for the Assistant Secretary of State for International Organizations, Jeremy Carr. He was pressed about his white supremacy and white nationalist views, and when asked, because he claimed that there was a white cultural genocide happening in the United States, they asked him to define what white culture is and what white identity is, and he could not name it without bringing up Black people, without bringing up the Black church and Black identity. And white supremacy only exists to be the opposition to Black people because the bottom line is that Black culture exists without white supremacy. White supremacy does not exist without us.
Mm,
And that's what they're afraid of,
right,
honestly.
and
They
that's what
don't
I mean. It's
yeah,
like, no, but
yeah,
there's nothing to take. And I
right.
think that's what's really the fear is the reality that you're bereft.
Yes.
There's
Yeah,
nothing to take.
yeah,
There's nothing to steal. There's
yeah,
nothing there. It's
yeah,
made up.
yeah,
So I think that's why there's nothing when someone asks you to provide an account for it, you can't.
yeah.
It's insubstantial, which is why it can't heal and it cannot save, and it's a really bad taskmaster because it's insatiable. You can't satisfy it
You
because it has
can't.
no ground.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you gotta let it go.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, look what it's doing to people's minds and bodies. I mean,
It's corrosive, yeah.
I'm watching the faces of these people in Congress who are protecting all of this and covering it up, and I'm thinking, what a waste of your humanity. Like,
Mm,
at any point you could stop.
right.
Like,
And just
you're
choose the
gone.
right side. Yeah,
They've left the
yeah,
building, and at
they
this
have.
point, you have really resigned yourself to darkness.
Mm,
It's time for people to let this thing go. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know what else we have to say besides 6 million pieces of paper.
yeah. Because what are you holding on to at this point, honestly? There's nothing to hold on to. I mean, it is burning. It is burning, and it needs to just complete burning, right? But
Yeah.
I'm very confused because to me, these are the obvious things when it comes to moral clarity of the difference between right and wrong. When you break things down further, like let's say with policy, it's very easy to talk about, oh, okay, well, maybe you don't think these people should have more taxes, or you don't think that, public schools should have this amount of funding, which you can actually have debate about this. There should be no debate about what's happening right now. Because what are you defending at this point? Even when we were watching the hearing, I don't know if you saw much of the hearing with Pam Bondi, the survivors were right behind her. She refused to turn around and look them in the eye. You talked about darkness. That's exactly what that is. Because she doesn't wanna have to see the reflection of herself. That's exactly what that was.
That's
Because
right.
the minute you see that, then you have to start thinking, "Am I on the right side of this? Did
Right.
I allow this to be covered up? Am I complicit?" The answer is unequivocally yes, right?
Yes.
But they don't wanna do the work to have to come to terms with that. They don't wanna reconcile with those feelings.
And it's unfortunate. And I'm like, I think at this point, like, people are free to choose that. And that's why I keep telling people, yo, look at the fruit of these choices because we
Yeah,
have these choices too on a micro level,
yeah,
right? Like we have the same choices on a micro level.
yeah,
And I'm trying to become immune to that temptation that leads to somebody becoming her,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I don't want to pretend as though that scarcity or my fears about having enough or my fears about being enough have not led me to want to exploit somebody or uh, push them down in some way. Those temptations are in all of us,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
the resistance over time to those temptations that becomes integrity. And it's
yeah,
like you can't look at those girls, those women, because they have integrity. They
yeah.
push through, right? And so it becomes a real I have a friend, Danielle Rube Casillas, and I'll tag her. But she talks about white psychosis, and this really there is a real work to be done in white bodies.
Mhm.
Um, White people have been robbed on the scale they have no idea.
Mm,
And
mm.
like, seriously, it's not even some of the shenanigans are funny because it's like, y'all are really trying it. But on another level, like, they really are. I mean, that Pam Bondi interview was like, wow, wow.
It was shocking. I'm not gonna lie, it was very shocking to me.
It wasn't to me because I've been with a narcissist, but, like, that's what narcissism does,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? Like,
It
that's
clouds
how
your thinking
narcissism
and everything. You're the smartest person in the room, like, absolutely,
making no
absolutely.
sense. I mean,
Yeah.
and even he texts like a narcissist text. I
Mhm.
don't know if there's anybody on here who's been with a narcissist, but even the all caps text messages, I mean,
Is
this is
narcissistic.
narcissistic behavior. And so I'm saying, like, this is what whiteness leads to,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, because you can't have another.
yeah,
That's what narcissism is. It's nobody but me.
yeah.
And so really white supremacy will end up with one person left. It will eat
Mm,
up everything. It will eat up the
mhm.
globe. It
Yeah,
is not designed for communal flourishing. It is not designed for democracy. It is not designed for anything but void.
yeah, yeah. And the thing I also want a lot of white people to understand is that when we say white supremacy, that doesn't mean that's not synonymous with white people.
That's
But I
right.
think if you feel something when you hear that, that's something that you need to start dealing with.
Right.
Because we're not talking about I even used the phrase, I was like, "These people," because 'cause I'm talking about white nationalists and white supremacists.
Mhm.
Somebody was like, "Why do you have to say these people? Why can't you just say that person?" And I said, "Did you feel something when I said that?"
Mhm.
And he's like, "Well, I'm just a little offended." I said, "But why do you
Well,
think that I'm talking about you?"
a hit dog a holler, that's
A
why.
hit dog a holler, right? White
And it's
white supremacy and white
okay.
people are not synonymous, and they have to start there. I think before even if the rest of the stuff starts breaking down, you have to know that if we're not talking about you when we say white supremacy, we're not talking about you. And if you feel that you're being talked about, then you gotta start doing that inner work. You
That's
gotta
right.
start doing that inner work,
That's
yeah.
all it means is information, just like every other emotion. That
Yeah.
ping and that sting is information.
Mm.
It's not an indictment. It's
Right,
information.
right,
It
right.
becomes an indictment when you don't do anything about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you blame other people for why you don't do anything about it,
Sure.
right? Like that's where we have to go. That's the trick of whiteness, right? To scapegoat everything. Even fixing the world has been scapegoated.
Mhm.
Baby, right? Y'all are sitting back waiting on somebody else to do everything. And meanwhile, the not dealing with it, it's a current, right? Like energy is not created or destroyed. It just moves. It it
Yeah,
it transfers,
yeah,
right? And so unless we go in a counter, unless we move in a completely different direction than this, just sitting around waiting for somebody to save us from this is not going to work.
yeah.
They are very This is what Jesus I think is talking about with lukewarmness, right? Like they've got Project 25. Like They are very clear about what they want to do, and they are adamantly trying to make that effect in the world. They
Yeah.
are putting their energy towards it. And we're just waiting on God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all,
Mm.
the kingdom is at hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. I'm sitting with all of that. I'm sitting with all because it's heavy stuff, and it's stuff that we need to talk about, which is why I call the Substack "We Need to Talk." But before we do wrap up, one, I'm so thankful for your time and your knowledge. I want you to tell everybody where they can follow you, subscribe to your Substack, follow you on socials, all of those things, and then I have one last question for you. So
Uh,
do the whole
oh, spiel,
spiel.
man. I don't know. Just go to blackmodernmystic.com and you can find everything from there.
Easy
And then I'm
peasy.
also on Substack.
Love it. Love it. Now, because this is called hashtag we need to talk, I always end by asking guests, what is something that you think we need to be talking about that we're not talking about enough? I know that's a loaded question. Everyone's gonna think,
Grief.
oh, ooh, mm, mm,
I think that's what we got. Colonizers robbed us of the processes of grief.
mm,
And I think that's why we don't know what to do with power. We don't know what to do with freedom.
mm.
We don't know what to do with cycles of death.
Yeah,
It's because we just like really we don't have any kinds of things that teach us how to deal with pain, really. Everything that we have to deal with pain is like to anesthetize pain or alleviate pain. We really can't sit well with hunger or pain.
mm,
And both of those things usually come in times with that come in conjunction with grief. So
hmm,
I feel like we need to be talking about our grief practices, our practices of like ritual to help us like go through the cycles of life and death.
yeah,
Like I really I think that's what's missing. Like we wouldn't be so grabby and insatiable if we knew how to just sit with hunger
yeah.
and sit
And
with limitation.
what do you think having the tools to properly process grief would then turn into?
Goodness.
Mm,
Because I think, it's a Toni Morrison quote. And she says, goodness doesn't want anything. It can't be seduced.
mm-hmm,
So when you're content, you don't need anyone to give you anything. You don't question whether you are or have enough. And so you
yeah,
can't be seduced into evil, right? There's no
yeah,
shame for it to attach to, like in Genesis 4, sin attaches to shame. Sin is
yeah,
not intrinsic in Genesis 3. It's not even in Genesis 3. It's in Genesis 4.
mm,
And then it's external to you. You have power over it, and it tells you exactly what it attaches to. So I think for me, that means that I need to really think through what are the ways that I seek other things to give me worth. Because if I can outsource my worth, then I can be bought. So I have
yeah,
to be able to trust my own goodness so I
yeah,
can stand still. And that just means that I have to experience all the things of life. I can't, who needs billions and billions of dollars?
right,
Like,
right,
right?
right,
Like you're running from life.
yeah,
You're running from the natural cycles of life. And I think that, or you could live a happy, content life and go with the flow like every other thing that's in creation,
yeah,
you know? So I
yeah,
think grief would help us to slow down a little bit and just be present to life a
yeah.
little bit more. Yeah, that's
Beautiful
what I
words to
think.
end on. Love it, love it. Thank you so much, Dr.
Yes, friend.
Tamice.
Yes,
Dr.
friend.
Tamice.
I appreciate you. And I
Of
appreciate
course.
T&E and what they're modeling
Yes.
by handing stuff to you, man. Model it. Model
Thank
it. Do
you.
what they did.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
All
you're
right, everyone.
phenomenal.
You are too. We'll do this again. We'll do this
Yes.
again. All
All
right.
right,
Thanks for
friend.
tuning in, everyone. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.